4 of Songs of Solomon, series on sex, romance, passion, lovemaking, and dating and courtship. So glad you joined us. So check this out. We're in chapter 8 of Songs of Solomon. Chapter 8. And in this chapter, this is the end of Songs of Solomon. And so, but this is not the end of the beloved and the lover's marriage. This is definitely not the end. They are still going, still keeping that fire burning. So in chapter 8, the beloved says, if only you were to me like a brother who was nursed at my mother's breast, then if I found you outside, I would kiss you and no one would despise me. So the beloved, which is the woman, is talking to her lover, the husband, and she's saying this because public displays of affection was something that was not, back in those days, it was something that wasn't, it was frowned upon. Public displays of affection was frowned upon, even among married folks. So now it's like, hey, we gonna kiss, we gonna do all those things now in 2025. But back then, it wasn't like that. So their culture frowned upon it. You couldn't get intimate unless you were in the privacy of your own home. That's how it was. So she wanted him always, wanted to be in his arms always and wrapped up in his love. Remember a few chapters ago, she was so wrapped up, she was like weak in the knees. And she still has that. That's what's great about this particular love story, is that, yes, it doesn't show you the downs. It shows you the ups. However, she's still passionate about this, man. That's the one thing we got to keep in mind as married folks, is to keep the romance. Keep the romance going. You know what I'm saying? Keep that romance going. Very, very, very important. That's year 1. That's year 5. That's year 20. That's year 30. That's year 45. All of these years, you got to keep that romance going. And that's something for me. That's something for my wife. That's something for every married couple to keep in mind, because you can get a little, complacent at times. And so we have this, still this affirmation. And that's one thing about, the beloved and the beloved. They affirm each other. That's another important thing that I mentioned before. But affirming each other is very, very crucial and important. We need to hear that you love me. We need to hear that you think I'm handsome, or I think you're beautiful. We need to hear these things, these words. So it's very important. Compliments, those things. All right, so in verse 2, it says, I will lead you and bring you to my mother's house, she who has taught me. I will give you spiced wine to drink, the nectar of my pomegranates. His left arm is under my head, and his right arm embraces me. Daughters of Jerusalem, I charge you, do not arouse or awaken love until it so desires. Remember, she says this a few times. It seems like maybe in every other chapter, she says this in the Songs of Solomon. And it's really something that that our marriages, one of the things that our marriages should reflect, this kind of love, not just lovemaking, but this kind of affection for each other, affection and affirmation. Marriage is a gift from God. It's not something that people just enter into lightly, but it's a gift from God. It's a gift from the Lord. And this shows the appreciation they have for what God has given them. We ought to appreciate what God has given us in the gift of your husband, in the gift of your wife. We ought to show appreciation. Very, very, very important. She says the nectar is just like all the other fruits they describe in this book. It's like intoxicating juices. They describe a lot of fruit that they describe, and spices and myrrh and those things. But it's just it's really intoxicating intoxicating juices or intoxicating scents. And so in verse 6, it says, place me like a seal over your heart, like a seal on your arm. For love is as strong as death. Its jealousy unyielding as the grave. It burns like blazing fire, like a mighty flame. That's what love is. That's what love is. It's a commitment. It's something that is, it's something that's not light. It's something that goes deep and deep and deep into the heart. That's what she's saying. Place me like a seal over your heart. So, I want to be permanent right there. I want to be right there. I want to be permanent on your heart. I don't want to, it's not a fly-by-night thing. This is not just a 5 second wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. This is I want to be there until death do us part. That's what she's saying. That is exactly what she's saying. It's a commitment thing. This is a covenant. Marriage is a covenant. So this is a covenant. That's what marriage is. Marriage is a covenant. One of the things that I think keep in mind is in verse 6, it says, it burns like blazing fire, like a mighty flame. Many waters cannot quench love. Rivers cannot wash it away. If one were to give all the wealth of his house for love, it would be utterly scorned. So it's like she's saying she's caught up in the rapture of love, like the Anita Baker song. It's 3 different songs that I think about: Weak in the Knees, The Secret Garden, and Caught Up in the Rapture of Love. When I think of Songs of Solomon. And this is something that she said, love is as strong as death. It's permanent. Love is forever. She does not have a backup or another possibility. Both feet are in when it comes to love. This is not a 1 foot in, 1 foot out type of thing. This is not, I have other possibilities. No, she wants him. She gives it her all, and she wants him to do the same. She wants him to give everything 100%, not 90, not 50, but 100%. So she has both feet in with him, and she is all in with this man. She is not considering any other man, because what they have is an exclusive thing. It's an exclusive thing. All right. And then the friends say, we have a young sister and her breasts are not yet grown. What shall we do for our sister for the day she is spoken for? If she is a wall, we will build towers of silver on her. If she is a door, we will enclose her with panels of cedar. So this is like friends that they have, and they're being protective. Clearly they're being protective of their young sister who is pure. So this is part of the permanence and pure part of this chapter. This is what it's called, permanence and pure. And so the pure part is this young girl who is not, she's like probably a teenager, and she's not grown, but she has brothers who are very protective, and they want to remain protective of her. They want to protect her purity and innocence through her development. It's almost as if they are saying how she can go through the same development as this young woman did, especially in the beginning. Going back to the beginning of Songs of Solomon, they want to seal her in a different way, keep her from getting into sexual promiscuity and sexual sins. They don't want her involved in any kind of sexual sins. And so that, I think, is what men are. Really, we're protectors as well. And so they are protectors. Even though they're her brothers, they are protectors. Kind of how I am with my sisters as well, especially when they want to listen. But, it's just one of those things that, they're very protective. And in verse 10, she says, I am a wall, and my breasts are like towers. Thus I have become in his eyes like one bringing contentment. Solomon had a vineyard in Baal-Hamon. He let out his vineyard to tenants. Each was to bring for its fruit 1,000 shekels of silver. But my own vineyard is mine to give. The 1,000 shekels are for you, O Solomon, and 200 are for those who tend its fruits. So Solomon had a vineyard, meaning he was with other women before the beloved. The vineyard is his body. That's his body. And so he was with other tenants or other women. She said her body is her own to give, and she gave it to Solomon. That's what she said. She gave her body to Solomon. Remember, in verse 13 it says, you who dwell in the gardens with friends and attendants, let me hear your voice. Come away, my lover, and be like a gazelle or like a young stag on the spice-laden mountains. So this is awesome. This is an awesome love story. And what I have to say really is that this is a beautiful love story. And we ought to know that this beautiful love story is a possibility. It's definitely possible, that something that is realistic in this day and age. Okay, but the lesson is this also, that we must let God be the one to guide us and love God's way, not how the world suggests we do so. The world suggests all kinds of things, a lot of selfish things. But God's way to being two people together, bringing two people together, is always the best. And there are no regrets when we follow his plan. But naivety and bad decisions usually follows the young and less experienced and less spiritual individuals. All things are possible with the Lord. A beautiful love story is possible. It's possible to have for a man to find a good woman. And it's possible for a good woman to for a good man to find that woman as well. It's possible. It's very much possible. Once he lays the foundation, meaning God, without us getting in the way, we can have a beautiful love story like the one Solomon has with his bride. And not just the beginning, but throughout the entire relationship. The entire relationship can be beautiful. Not just in the beginning when you're in love and your nose is open and all that. You can have a beautiful relationship in year 10, year 20, year 30. My wife and I, we love each other. I like my wife. You know what I'm saying? I'm in love with my wife. And I think she is a very beautiful woman. I call her, that's her name. I call her beautiful all the time. And so we know that every relationship is not going to be the same. However, it's important for us to maintain that romance, maintain that dating, the dating part. That's what Keep the Fire Burning is. We have creative date nights. And so we want couples to be able to experience that and keep the fire burning and keep that romance, keep it spicy. All right. Thank you for joining me as we walk through the word through Sons of Solomon. I appreciate you sticking with me, and keep the fire burning in your marriage.